Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ericka Sallee of True Synergy. You know, True Synergy is a personal coaching and professional development company where I help women and organizations to figure out what stands in the way of their success. And here on this channel, I love to be able to not just share what some of the barriers are, but to give you the strategies to help you move through them so that you can get to whatever the next best version of yourself looks like. And so the topic for today is the last in the series that I've been doing over the last couple weeks called the 10 Best Ideas to Jumpstart You to Your Brand New Year. Now, these are tips that I've shared to really help you to think about how can I focus on embracing this new season that I'm in with the things that are going to help me to be more successful in those. And when you apply these 10 things, I do believe that you will begin to see yourself making strides that perhaps you didn't think you could make before. And so if you haven't seen any of those videos, the links to each of them are included here in the description of this video. So the topic today is one of my favorites, and that is take time for self-care. I want to say that again. Take time for self-care. You know, I'm in one of the spaces in my home that I've designated for me to just step away, to be here and to be able to sit and to be quiet, to be still, because I know that everything around me is moving and there's always something to think about, something to analyze. There's a bill to pay, there's laundry to do, there's groceries to purchase or at least have them delivered. And I'm sure that, like me, you probably have lots of different things that you're responsible for. You're wearing multiple hats. Perhaps you're a mother, a father, a grandmother, an auntie, a friend. Maybe you're part of an organization, or you have a business, or you work, or you do a combination of the two. And so when you think about that and all of the responsibilities that come along with that, if we do not take care of ourselves, then all of those other things will really not run as smoothly and as effectively as they could. It doesn't mean that the stress won't come along with all of those things. But when we honor ourselves, when we nurture ourselves and pour into us by taking care of us, then all of those other things will allow us to engage in those in a way that is healthiest for us. And so, you know, you might be saying, okay, what do I do? I have so many things going on and I don't even know what self-care looks like. So I'm going to share just a few tips. But before I do that, I want you to think about this. For those of you who fly, you might be familiar with the fact that before that plane takes off, the flight attendants will come into the middle of the aisle and start to share all of the safety measures. They'll show you where the exit signs are. They'll show you where the restrooms are. And they'll remind you that if for some reason the cabin loses oxygen pressure, there's this little thing that'll fall down from the cabinet above called the oxygen mask. And the one thing that always sticks with me is that every single time they remind us that I have to put my oxygen mask on first. And if you're flying with a small child or there's someone else who needs your assistance, you have to be able to give them that assistance. But in order to do that, you've got to put that oxygen on for yourself first. The same is true with everyday living. And I think that we get it backwards a lot of times. We tend to go out and help everyone else and be there for everyone else and do for everyone else. And then when we look up, we don't even know what doing for us looks like. And so I'm hoping that in this conversation today that you say to yourself, oh wait, I have to honor myself first. I have to take the time for self-care so that I can be able to care for others. That is exactly what I'm saying. So one of the ways to do that, and this is one of the simplest ways that I think we often miss, and that is to breathe. You might be saying to yourself, okay, well, I'm watching you right now, so I'm checking my pulse. I know that I'm breathing. Well, you're right, and I'm glad about that. But when I say breathing, I'm talking about intentional breathing. I can't tell you the number of times, and this is why this particular tip is so important to share, where I've been walking around my home or in the midst of doing something, and I realize, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm holding my breath. And you can tell that you're holding your breath because it feels a little tight here in your belly. Sometimes it feels a little tight here in your chest. And so just being able to release like a concentrated effort to breathe, like literally taking a deep breath in and exhaling out. And as you push that breath out, you're actually allowing those shoulders to drop. And really what that does is it gives you a chance to pause and reset. It helps your brain and your body to slow down a bit from all of the hustle and bustle, all of the quick movement, and just gives you a chance to be present with yourself. So taking a deep breath in and exhaling out is an easy form of self-care because you're giving yourself the opportunity to just slow your rhythm and to just reset. Another way to honor yourself with self-care is to take moments to stretch. You know, I know that when I talk to people and I ask the question, well, when you start to feel stress, where do you feel it? And that stress sometimes sits right here in our shoulders. Sometimes it sits here in our neck. Sometimes we get headaches or we feel nauseous. Like there's lots of different ways that stress will show up and present itself in our bodies. And for every person, it's different. But one of the common things that I often hear is that, yeah, I start to get these knots in my shoulders and it just feels really tight. So taking a moment to just stretch a little bit, moving the neck around and gently stretching, not pulling, but you can feel how that stretch helps to move some of that tension out of that part of your body. And so that's a form of self-care. Now, those are some of the physical things, but I also think about the fact that, you know, we are in situations or connected to people that sometimes do not serve us well, either for a long term or just in a moment. You know, perhaps you have a conversation with someone, and every time you have that conversation, it just feels like it's a little toxic. And by toxic, I mean, you know, perhaps it's always negative, or, you know, the person might be stirring up controversy, having conversations that you're like, are we really talking about anything of substance? I know you might not be able to connect with that type of situation, but I've heard conversations, I've been in those myself. And so self-care means that you are actually preserving your emotional well-being in that moment. And sometimes it might require you to say, you know, I tell you what, I've got to go and take care of some things. So, you know, let's connect at another time. And, you know, you can end the conversation in a respectful and honorable way. But you going to take care of some things means that you're stepping away to take care of your mental processing of that situation in the moment. And as much as that might sound silly, that really is a form of self-care because you are preserving how you are feeling and responding in that particular situation. And so there's lots of different ways. You know, I was thinking about this conversation. I'm like, self-care is just so broad. And there are things that we don't even think about when it comes to taking care of us. And sure, there are other options like investing in things like massages. We used to think, and I know I used to think this way, that a massage was a luxury, something that, you know, only people who have a certain class or certain status or financial status can get massages. And the reality is that massages really aren't a luxury, but a necessity. To think about that moment that you designate for yourself, taking care of your body, it's a spiritual reconnection with yourself. And so that is an option. You know, another tip for self-care is around meditation. You know, I mentioned that I'm here in one of my spaces in my home, and this is a space where I actually stop to meditate. You might be thinking to yourself, oh gosh, meditation, like what is that? And it really is a moment to allow you to sit still, to be connected with your breath, like the rhythm of our breathing. When you think about just how spiritual breathing within and of itself is, it's a practice that lets us know that our bodies are connected to all of the systems and the functions on the inside that allow us to take in this air, process it, and utilize it for our own well-being. And so meditation just allows us to be still, allows us to breathe, and allows us to listen and to feel what that is. And to really just allow your mind to be in a space. Now, sometimes people will say, well, I can't meditate because I can't get my mind to stop. I can't get it to slow down. And what I say is, it's not about getting your mind to stop, because the reality is, again, that our brains don't stop. Now, even when we're sleeping, our brains are in a calmer state. But meditation says that I'm not trying to stop the thoughts from coming, but I'm just trying to process how I'm dealing with them in the moment, when I'm being still, when I'm breathing and I'm listening and feeling that breath. So here's a technique that I share often, and that is, if you're still and you're trying to just wind down, settle down, and you're like, okay, I'm still, but I know the laundry has to be done. Oh my gosh, okay, I know that I've got to get groceries, and I know this bill has to be paid, and all of these thoughts are coming to you. I know I've got a report due, I've got a meeting, I've got a project, and you're sitting there and you're trying to be still and you're thinking about all of these things, and you're like, oh my gosh. What I would suggest is to use the balloon technique, so that if you have a moment and you're sitting still and all of those thoughts are coming your way, one of the things is to imagine each of those thoughts inside of a balloon. And as it comes to you, oh, the laundry has to be done, like literally imagine that laundry basket inside of a balloon. And then you can say, oh, but wait, I'm just going to let it float away for the time being. Oh, here comes the thought of the bills, and I see the stack, and it's inside of a balloon. And I'm allowing myself to literally see it inside of a balloon, and then I'm watching it float away. Oh my goodness, here's the meeting I have to be in. I'm looking at the pen and paper that I'm going to use to take notes. Here it comes. There's that thought. Wait, I see that pen and paper inside of a balloon, and poof, I'm allowing it to be released. So you're not fighting against your thoughts, but you're working with the thoughts so that as they come, you're using a mechanism to help you to manage how you respond to that. That is a form of self-care. And inevitably, all of these things that I'm sharing is not just about the self-care, but it's about managing the stress so that we can manage ourselves well throughout all of it. There's so many different things to discuss when it comes to self-care and stress management and well-being. But I'm hoping that these things that I've shared here in this video will at least give you something to think about so that you can act right away, even if it's as simple as remembering to make those moments for intentional breathing. It's a way of nurturing yourself. And so I do encourage you that as you move forward throughout the rest of this new season, whether it's the new year, whether it's a new space in your life, that you embrace this notion of self-care, and that it's non-negotiable. Like, you don't explain it, you don't ask for permission to do it, because you love yourself that much to know how important it is to, yes, take care of you. Because in order to do all of the other things, I just want to say that again, in order to do every other thing that you are destined to do, designed to do, required to do, it is imperative that you look within first, that you honor you first, and that you take care of you. It is that important. So if you say to yourself, you know what, I hear you, and I'm glad that you reminded me of just how important it is, but I'm trying to figure out how to navigate this and other things in my space. If that is you and you're trying to do that on your own and you're looking for support or partner to help you navigate through that, then I encourage you to reach out to me at truesynergy.org. There's an option to just send a contact so that you and I can have a 30 to 45 minute discovery session to hear about what's happening in your space, and perhaps to help you reshift some of the thinking around why you cannot invest the time in self-care. There's some myths that I think we gravitate toward, and that becomes a barrier for us. So if you're trying to figure out what that looks like, then I do encourage you, yes, to go ahead and reach out and let's have a conversation about it. So I'm hoping that these 10 best ideas to jumpstart your brand new year are 10 new things that you have in your toolkit, not just to manage yourself, to focus on well-being, but to really take those strategies to make strides in whatever next looks like for you. It's been my pleasure to share these 10 topics. I do encourage you to come back to this channel, stay connected, because there'll be more conversations that can continue to help you on your transformation journey. I look forward to seeing you all again real soon. Until I do, take care, and yes, be well.